All right. So let me just double check one thing. I do think I'm live. All right. You look good. All right. So, um, first of all, I want to say how excited I am to be doing this live tonight. I want to thank my guest for joining us. We're going to talk to Seth in a second, but first, as a consummate host that I am, I have to promote that immediately following this episode on the channel, I'm going to be dropping a new, specially produced, abbreviated but still hard hitting edition of Talking Ourselves to Death. Will go up immediately after this broadcast. Bonus content featuring a special guest that I'll reveal more about in a bit. But first, let's talk about the man of the hour. I want to go to him now. Seth, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time on a Friday night to do this, dude. This is great.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Again, I'm sure anytime I can get you out of corralling those kids, it can't be a bad thing, right? I mean,
Yeah, especially after this week. I love my children, but I need the break, so I much appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. Hey, dude, this is great for me too. Gives me an opportunity to sit in my office and drink local high-priced IPAs.
All
So
right.
everybody
Nothing wrong
wins,
with that.
or not.
All right.
Right. So, dude, there's so much to talk about with you and Defiance. I feel like, and I said this to you privately, I feel like this could be an 8 hour, 5 hour show. Just talk. If we were to go through all of your characters and really dive deep, we could do this forever. And so I want to kind of touch on everything. But I kind of want to start first with how you got into the hobby because I feel like you and I were sort of around the same places, but also you were other places. So, like, give the viewer uh, a little bit of a background as far as like your experience in the hobby, when and how you got into it, the places you were, the people you met, things like that.
So I think I got into e-fetting. I want to say it was like probably 99, 2000 thereabouts. And it was one of those, like I mentioned on the Discord the other day, like it was one of those, I think the first bet I ever did was one of those where you get to play as the real life characters. All the good ones had been taken, like Stone Cold, The Rock, Undertaker, like the big names. So I had to settle for the big Valboski, Val Venus, and then they let me later have Ken Shamrock. And I think for like, it was around for like 3 shows, if I remember right. So
I was gonna say I feel like those feds were everywhere in like 1998, 99, but they were never there for long. So it's funny.
yeah,
It's
they were
funny you say
never,
that.
yeah, yeah.
It's, so all right. So you kind of found that. When did you create your first character, and who was your first character?
Um, if Renner's listening, this is a shout out to him. If not, and he gets to watch this later, this shout out for Renner. I was in the it was the IWO. A shout out for Ford too because he was there.
Okay.
Um, I was in the IWO. It was the Internet Wrestling Organization, and they had like a developmental. I think it was like the IML, something like that.
Okay.
And my first character was El Bastardo Loco, and it was said just like that. It was like a giant, like Sami Zayn, El Generico type white dude appropriating lucha libre. But
Was it
um,
inspired by El Generico?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
probably that sounds right.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was as great as it sounds, which
Yeah.
is not at all.
Uh-huh.
Garbage character. I still managed to win a title. I think it was Extreme with an X, of course.
Nice.
Because I think around that time they were all with an X.
That's it.
Uh, we were having some fun there. And then I think it was around for a few months. Then trying to remember where it was after that. And I think I took a break for a few years, and then probably like 2003, 2004, I was in what was it? Renner started a Fed, the Squared Circle.
Okay.
And they were very like Ring of Honor based, like, yeah, had stipulations for like rope breaks, tried to like get away from like kind of the usual tropes you'd see in wrestling, like run-ins like were actually punishable by fine and suspension, so there wasn't a lot of those. So you had to kind of get creative.
Kind of
That lasted a little bit under
blood
a
and
year.
guts, serious, hard
Yeah,
nosed, no nonsense.
yeah, pretty
Right,
much. Yeah,
right.
it was kind of like Ring of Honor, kind of like with a bigger budget, if I remember right. And was a lot of fun. It actually sharpened a lot of my match writing skills, which at the time I didn't think I was very good at, but I kind of had to force myself to get good. It was a match writing fed.
Okay.
So, and doing one of those, and I say to this to everybody, I'm probably one of the few people who enjoys the match writing the most in the hobby, and I think that a lot of those skills from like way back 2003 2004 still apply today. So
Well, I think it
kind of help.
shows. I think it shows in how your matches come across, though, that you enjoy it. I always, truthfully, and this probably shows as well. But a lot of times I go into my matches like with no idea what I'm going to do. I know what the finish is going to be. How the fuck am I going to get there? Where like I feel like
Yeah,
maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's rarely the case with a Seth match. I feel like Seth goes in with a pretty clear vision of a story he wants to tell, some cute little ideas he throws in there that he's been sitting on for a while, and the badass finish that is amazing. Yeah, dude, your matches are next level, and it's not something
same.
I fully appreciated until you and I had you had written probably one of my matches. I think it was Oscar and Corvo was where I was like, Jesus,
That's right.
this fucking guy. Nice. So when was it? So that sounds like a lot of role play feds.
Yeah, so it was that one was an angle fed, and then I did role play after that. It was the first version of Prime, like 2005, I think thereabouts, after Squared Circle folded.
Okay.
I don't even remember what character it was. I can't. After the first 1,000, I lose track. So
It almost doesn't matter, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
how many characters do you think? You joke the man of a million characters, the man of X characters. How many characters? You probably created a bunch, but how many do you think you've actually done shit with? Like actually invested, and like really, is it over? Is it over 100, Seth?
That would probably be correct. I would have to imagine. I've been doing this on and off for the better part of what 20 years now. Some few breaks here and there, but yeah, about 20. So
That's
I would,
crazy.
yeah, probably.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
50 of them are here right now in Defiance, so that makes sense.
And
So,
I think if you include Brazen, you're over you're over 100, right? Like
yeah, then yeah, that's probably
Brazen's
correct.
probably 100. So was Oscar your first character here? How did you find Defiance? I think is because I think we could talk about like Sunny Silver and all the shit you did prior to coming Defiance. That could be its own show, and maybe someday it will be. But like, as far as Defiance goes, like, how did you find Defiance? When was that? I feel like you and I either just missed each other on my first run here, or you had just come in or something. But how did you find it? Who opened the door for you, and who was the character?
Oh, I think so. Angry Justin was in a promotion I was in briefly. It was ACW All Star Championship Wrestling, and he was there for a little bit. Um, I believe at the time when Defiance had started out, it was an RP fed, and he had mentioned to me, "Oh, hey, I like your work here. Would you be interested in Defiance?" And we were thinking about taking an angle, which he would later on to say was, "Oh, that was the biggest regret of the old Defiance." Uh, but nevertheless, yeah. So he, gave me a link and stuff. So I applied. I think my first characters were Team Haas.
Oh,
It was and around the time they weren't doing like traditional tag teams, they were doing like trios teams, which I was like, oh, well, that's a neat concept.
mm-hmm.
To do like 3-person teams. So it was the original version, Angel Trinidad, Alexander the Great, spelt really crappy, and my buddy Sean's character, Capital Punishment, who's now the in character, the Brazen Matchmaker.
Yep.
And then they were managed by Tom Morrow, who went by Junior Keeling at the time.
Yep.
And so it was pretty much like Junior Keeling was like the mouthy little shit who would hide behind these 3 big brutes, talk all the smack, and then, they would brutalize people. And it was a lot of fun. Originally, they came in as faces, and it was like I remember maybe like 2 shows. It was super flat, and then so all right, I'll give him a manager, turn him heel, and
Turn him
then that
heel.
was like the best thing for him. Yeah,
That's awesome. So that wasn't really your plan coming in. You just kind of adapted.
yeah, pretty much. Just if something doesn't work, I'll try to flip it around and find something that will. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and again, I don't want to jump all over the map, but I feel like I've kind of watched you just in my short time. I've watched you kind of shift gears when you've had to, or whatever. Whether it was Jack Mace, figuring out what you were doing with Jack. So how far in general, like, how much of a planner are you? I tend, like, I know that there's some people like I tend to think pretty. I always kind of know where I want to get, but never a clue how. Again, kind of like my match writing, Seth. I feel like I'm on the psychiatrist couch and I've done all the talking now. But kind of like I always know where I want to get, and it's like, okay, how the fuck am I gonna get there, right? And I'm pretty far out. Like, in general, are you a long term dude? Do you kind of go by, all right, this is a fun idea, I'm gonna do this now? Like, how much of that? What's the mix, you think?
Um, when I was in the squared circle, like way back when, that was planned like a year in advance, and after that, it was like never again. Because then, anytime we'd get a new person, they'd have to wait like 2, 3, 4 arcs for somebody to free it up, and like I said, it lasted less than a year anyway, so it was kind of a moot point.
Okay.
So now, if I have like a good direction I want to go, at most maybe 1 to 2 arcs, because it's great to have a story, but I feel like something that maybe some people miss on at the time, being flexible. Plans change, people leave, people come and go. Somebody who you may want to work with before, now their plans are busted. Oh, okay, hey, we can work together now. So I try to keep it somewhat flexible, and then when I'm doing my arcs, I typically have like I kind of like your match writing, I guess, as you put it. I have a goal to get there. I know where I begin, and then I try to have at least a loose plan for the show, from show to show. But there have been plenty of times where it's like, oh, that's a cool idea, but how about we do it this way? So I think a healthy mix of both makes it a lot more fun.
No, that's great.
For me.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Sorry, so you had Team Haas. You were doing the trios thing with Tom Morrow. Or with Junior Keeling, and how was it? Uriel Cortez next? Was it Oscar? I'm curious of like the evolution of like how slowly and insidiously did Seth slowly wrap his tentacles around Defiance and pull it under? How did that happen? Who let this happen? Who was asleep at the wheel?
I know, right? Well, probably Angry Justin and the previous staff, first of all. So they were all too busy sniping. Yeah. Sniping and yelling at each other daily on the forums over this and that. And so I was here with Team Haas, and then I took a break. I want to say it was like 2016, because my son was born then. So I'm like, okay, that real life's got to come first at the time. So I left all the feds I was in. I took a break for probably about, I want to say 9 months to a year or something like that.
Okay.
And then Defiance was still around, and it was different people. I think it was Mikey and K.O. Murray's handler running things at the time. I think other people, I think Brian, something may have been involved at the time, or Brian was just coming in.
Yep.
I had come in with Oscar. He started as kind of like the white meat baby face, just talking with a weird New Zealander accent, because I don't know, just because reasons, but yeah, Oscar started, and then I think over time, as I had at the time I was in other feds, and then those closed down. So then when Defiance kind of became my sole focus, okay, maybe I'll try another character here or two, and then 1 or 2 became 100, and I'm at where I'm at today because of it. So
yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Oscar was first, and then Uriel Cortez came in second, I believe.
Okay. And you and I have talked about this in chat too. I wasn't entirely clear that Uriel came in as a heel with, that was when he became Tom Morrow, right? It was around that time.
So he came in with, he was co-managed by Junior Keeling and his father Thomas, and it was like a co-managed kind of like, I forgot, like when Jim Cornette and I think it was like Mr. Fuji like co-managed Yokozuna, or something like, I could be remembering that wrong, but
No, that was
it was
right.
supposed to be like
And yeah,
a father and son like management team. I'm like, okay, well, that's never been done before. So like, Thomas Keeling Sr. was the more like kind of militant minded, like he's the guy who formulated the strategies and plans. Junior was still, again, like he could do it, but he was the guy who just talked shit behind this giant 7'2" guy's back. And so I had Oscar my face, Uriel the heel. Then Oscar had, then I took another break. I think Oscar just won the fist. And then I had to take a break after that because then my daughter was born.
got it. It's always the damn kids, man. It's always those
I
damn
know.
kids. But you
Oh,
seem
for
to
real.
find it. You seem to, I know you got a couple. You got your hands full. Let's put it that way. But you seem to find time to it's not even just it's not just the quantity. It's the quality of what you put out between Def TV. You typically got at least 2 matches, at least 2 segments. Uncut. Seth's gonna have something on Uncut generally. Then out of nowhere, you get a wall of text brazen drop. Just, hey, by the way, I had some time this morning, and I and I wrote out a 4-hour card. Oh my god, that's hysterical. So like, how are you able to do that? Is your wife just fucking incredible? I mean, we know that from Def Radio, but is your
Pretty
wife?
much, yeah.
Okay.
Incredible, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. He
Okay.
puts up with my shenanigans and bullshit. So, um, but I think she started actually really having fun when I started recording, like doing the Def Radio stuff. And then when she'd kind of found the voice for Titanus, then it's like, hey, is there Def Radio? It became like, oh god, he's doing this thing. I'm like, whatever. To, oh, hey, is there like a Def Radio coming up? Or can we record some stuff? So
But like, dude, it comes across that she enjoys doing it. You know what I mean? Like,
he does, yeah, for real.
It comes across it, and that is so hysterical to me. That is so hysterical. Again, and I don't want to jump all over, but like, we're having a conversation here, and I love it. So I want to talk about Def Radio because like, you have been, without question, one of the most prolific contributors, in addition to like, Strasma and Joe's done a bunch of shit. There's like so many people, but like, you don't just submit for one character. Again, we talk about the quantity, right? It's here comes, hey Paul, here comes, you and I would talk about, hey, here's the 2 bits I want to do, Paul. And I'm like, dude, thank you so fucking much. This is great, Seth. Thank you. And then I open my email and there's, hey Paul, here's those 2 bits we talked about. And here's 3 more. And I'm just like, this fucking guy. Where it becomes hard for me, Seth, is sometimes there was one episode I can think of where I had so much Seth and I'm trying to spread it out. But then as I'm putting it together, I realize it doesn't fucking matter because he doesn't sound the same in each clip. So it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So anyway, hats off to you. And I appreciate that because, again, Def Radio is a blast for me, but, it's
like super fun.
Dude, I just love that you guys like just go all in. I was trying to explain it to my older brother the other day. Because we were having a conversation about AI, so I sent him the Lance Warner experience. I sent him that Lance Warner voice, and he's like, "That's terrifying." And I'm like, "No, what's terrifying is that I have people that help me produce an hour-long episode of this foolishness." Anyway, yeah. So, like, what did you think of Def Radio when I first threw it out there? Because I don't even think I was active in the Fed at the time. I was just like loving lurking and enjoying the atmosphere. And I'm like, well, how can I contribute? Did you think I was out of my fucking mind? And how right were you?
Yes, but you hit on some really good points. And like, one of the things that I've absolutely loved about Defiance and like the handlers is the fact that like, it seems like everybody's kind of found their own niche, like stuff they contribute, Joe's Tim Tillinghast, Straws and his many characters, Chris Chicken Tenders and so
the
on.
The press conferences.
Yeah, the press conferences. Yeah, like everybody's found little ways here to contribute that I don't think I've seen done, if at all, in a lot of other Feds I've been. And like, I've literally said, like, I think Defiance might be the most fun I've literally ever had in like any E-Fed I've ever done. And, yes, I'm on staff, so I'm probably a little biased, but it's like that creativity that like, everybody's doing really good. So then it inspires me, oh shit, well, these guys are killing it. So what can I do to kill it as much or even half as good as like what other people are doing?
Right. I feel like in like role play Feds and in other places, you get that competitive, like, oh my God, that was so good. I got to do better than that. But like, I'm never angry when Seth writes something incredible. I'm more like, oh my god, that's incredible. How am I gonna? What can I do? Or you know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
inspiring. And that I agree with you. This is obviously the most fun I've ever had in fantasy wrestling, and just to be able to connect with people that you probably would never otherwise do that, and to write together is just such
Yeah.
a it's a crazy fucking thing.
Yeah, and everybody makes it so easy too. I'm like, one rare point, sorry, bad apple. Just yeah, and we, seems like most people get along here, and it's been a lot of fun, and like I said, everybody contributes, and when everybody's having fun, it shows, and especially in like recent shows where like feedback's been off the charts
Yep.
since we got into this arc, like that's been amazing to see. I'm like, I love it. I'm
Yeah.
here for it, and that's what it's like. All right, let's keep fucking going. Like I'm
Yeah,
fired up.
it does. There is certainly, I get a feeling that like just everybody is doing their best stuff, and we're building to conclusions, and not even but like natural evolutions of shit.
Yeah.
So again, I want to get back to again. I could go off on a million tangents, but I do want to talk about kind of your story here, because again, kind of the expansion of Seth TV, as I call it. When did so like Uriel was the heel? He eventually turned face. Actually, it was probably Tom Morrow that turned on him, if I was to guess.
Yes, yeah, okay. So I'm like, I had to remember the chain of events. So I had Oscar Burns had come in with some brazen characters. They had they were the Wrestle Friends, and it was Jack Mace, but he was not the hitman for Tom Morrow at the time. He was some big goofy like woodsman who just happened to be a good wrestler. And then Ryan Batts down in Brazen, who's now Big Boss Batts, like a tiny wrestler with like a Napoleon complex, who again, one of the many ideas I want to use someday on the main roster. But they were, at the time, they were Oscar Burns proteges, but then just at the time I wasn't feeling the story. Then I had brought along Minute, and I was like, oh, I kind of like those big guy, small guy tag teams would be fun. And at the time, I'm like, I want to do something new with Uriel, because at that time he'd been kind of treading water. So it's like, oh, let's put them as like kind of the unlikely, like kind of tag team, like kind of like Batista, Rey Mysterio, probably more a little bit of X-Pac and Kane, when Kane was kind of going away from the corporation, and X-Pac had been turned on by Triple H, and then it's like, okay, these two guys with seemingly nothing in common came together, and oh shit, they're a really good team.
Right. And then the family was born.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
there
where
was
it started.
Sky High Titans, or was
Yes.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, Sky High Titans. It was Uriel Cortez, and it was just Uriel Cortez and Minute. At the time, they were managed by Thomas Keeling, Junior's dad, who actually ended up being a good guy, but Junior, of course, we know, ended up being a unrepentant piece of shit.
Thank you.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprising literally nobody. Literally nobody. All right, so then obviously the family was born, and I don't want to do disservice, but I'm not trying to, but like, so Titaness comes in. Now, Titaness, I loved the way you introduced her, and this was something I think I just stumbled across randomly doing research or going back that hashtag deaf nostalgia, and kind of how you introduced her as a character in Brazen. She was Princess Hoss. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think she was originally Ford's character, I think. So, Ford, I appreciate you letting me use the character.
That's cool. That's awesome. I think Ford's watching too, so he's probably loving that you shouted him out there. So, all right, I did not realize that. So, but I love the way, if anybody is able to, go back and like find the segment, go to Titaness, go back to like one of her earlier appearances, like on the main roster. She debuts in a way where it's essentially like, oh, thank you, my wife delivering a beer. Now that's fucking, you want to talk about a keeper. Jesus Christ. That's just, no, but, you did it in such a, like a, it was like an NXT call up. It was very much, we've seen her on Brazen. She's competed as Princess Hoss, and then like she's Titaness. It's just so badass. I just loved that. Titaness is a phenomenal character. Was it hard for you to find her voice, or how was that?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. Like kind of when you're doing like I did some like role play pieces where she was eventually added as a character.
Okay.
Actually, can I pause for 1 second?
Yeah, you're good. See this?
Okay.
See this? back in a Scotty Flash, guys. We're prepared for this. We can handle any of these. Thank you for joining us. We have people in the chat. I want to shout out people in the chat. We've got Brian's in the chat. Joe is in the chat. Joe, I have to assume you're fired. Ford, Gorman, gentlemen, friends, countrymen, thank you. This is a big deal, and I'm loving it. So let's see. And he's back. Perfect. See how we do that? See? All right. So Seth, you're back. God,
Magic.
I love you. Was she delivering a beer also, or another child?
No, sadly, it was my cat. It was my cat trying to claw under the door, and I thought it was one of the children. So I'm like, oh, no.
Oh my god, I love it. Oh my god. All right, so so Princess Haas, kind of as Titanus, kind of rounded out the team, and you create. Mm-hmm. Did you know you were gonna do like kind of like a family gimmick? Like, when did it become clear that they weren't just? When did it become clear that they weren't just a tag team, but they were more than that to you?
So I had done some kind of like role play pieces with Uriel and Minute that I'm like, I thought they were okay. And then some people gave them really good feedback. That I was complimented on how I wrote them like real people. And for those characters, I think that's what works best. I feel like they work great as like kind of, almost like straight men to everybody else's insanity, I feel is where they thrive the best. So I've always tried to write them like a real friendship where it's like, they started out as two guys, a giant, and a tiny luchador who seemingly have absolutely nothing in common, but it's like, oh wait, they're really good friends. And I thought that was really cool to kind of get to flesh out over time. And I think around that point,
people kind of picked up on it, and it kind of probably like fueled that idea in your head of, oh wait, I should explore this further. Right.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. And then with Titanus, like we were talking before, it was really hard, I think, for me to find her voice. I haven't handled many like female characters. And then I'm trying to think of like archetypes, like, kind of like China, Jordan Grace, like kind of the powerhouse, like female wrestlers. And her style was easy to find, like the match writing stuff. Like I can kind of figure that out. That's easy. But I do find that with so many characters, it can be difficult to like find a voice to stick to it. And I got to be careful. It's like, oh shoot, I'm writing this promo that could be eerily similar to like what this character's talking.
Oscar could say that. Yeah.
Or have Titanus be like, if I start having Titanus call everybody GC, then I know that I'm like, oh, that's bad. I've lost it.
I'm losing it. So now obviously you've added Dan Leo James to the mix, which probably was not something like I remember you introduced that character a while ago. But I don't think you had that in mind. Was that just like kind of a spur of the moment? You were writing something and just, hey, I'm going to put them in there, or?
Yeah. So, I thought it would be funny if they had like a little, like, if Los Tres, they changed their name, which I have them rip on because they've gone through their third name change now. So, which that deserves to be clowned on no matter what. But, when they were Los Tres Titanes, I thought it would be funny.
Ploy. Oh, you know what? It's a merchandising ploy, Seth. You're not fucking fooling me. Sell more shirts. Hey, why are you wearing that? Why are you wearing the Los Tres Titanus shirt? We're Titanus Familia.
Yeah, right. You got me. So actually, no, that was definitely not the original plan. It was just like I think it was one of like the tag party Brazen things where like with Defiance teamed up with the Brazen characters. It was Uriel, and I'm like, oh, pair him with like a rookie giant, and he ends up being a complete bumblefuck. And I think like in his first couple matches, he literally like slipped and broke his face on the ring apron at one point. Like he had 3 left feet. Then he was in Brazen for a while longer, and then at the time I had Jack Mace, who I was trying and failing to get over as a face. Just I'd broken him out from Tom Morrow's group, and just the more I tried, it was like, I'm not feeling this character. Just it's not working. So I took him off the board.
That surprised me.
And then I thought,
that surprised me. I did not see that coming. You swerved me.
Yeah. And I feel bad because there were many times where I probably hit up Brush, probably one too many times, be like, hey, dude, I have this idea for Jack. What if I did da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then I'm going to kill him off pretty much. So So, Brush, if you're out there, I'm sorry.
Right.
Thank you for being my sounding board regardless, though. It was much appreciated. So,
Oh, that's awesome. That's hysterical.
um,
But no, but you mentioned kind of joining staff. So, like, when did it happen that you uh, got on the board, as they might say?
so I think it was just Ford and Brian at the time, and I think I'd bugged them for like character by, like, hey, can I?
Mm-hmm.
What if I had this character and did this? And they're like, okay, you're staff now. So I was pretty
Mm-hmm.
much voluntold, and then it
Mm-hmm.
just kind of stuck. And somehow they haven't thrown me out or
Yep.
gotten tired of my shit. So
How would
either I'm
you,
doing something right or don't want to deal with it.
or you're just not noticed, which is also nice, flying under the radar.
That too.
How would you define your role? Kind of like is like coordinating like all the arcs, kind of like how would you define like what the fuck do you do, and why are we paying you?
Yeah, that's actually a fair question. I'm still trying to figure that out so I can justify it one day. In the meantime, I don't know. I feel like I'm probably good at like the, bios, characters, trying to
Mm-hmm.
keep all that stuff organized. Brazen's, of course, been a major project of mine on the side. That's been fun to kind of give the NPCs like kind of their own little pocket universe, so they're not just characters that just show up strictly to job.
Yep.
So
So
and then ended up being a lot of
like
fun.
those brazen characters become more, and we've seen that so many times where the characters that are introduced in brazen become more, whether you're handling them or somebody else kind of takes them over or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
brazen definitely adds a layer because like it gives this whole extra history and kind of breadth to the promotion, which is pretty wild and super unique. What was the genesis of brazen? Was it just like, hey, we should have a developmental, or what was it?
So Evan, who Bronson Box's handler, I believe I want to say it was Evan and I believe Justin, and then it kind of became a community effort. They had like an iteration of Brazen before I took over,
All right, I could see
with
that. I
like
could see
a
Evan being deep in
whole other
that.
set of
Yeah.
characters.
Yep.
And then so, I don't know shit about shit as far as the website, as far as like adding micros, like changing web pages, like messing with all that. So I figure they're probably just keeping me on and justifying me by having me do like the bios portion. I can do all that.
Yep.
Like I said, I organize the brazen stuff. Roland kills it with the arcs. Occasionally I post a show or two, the rare chance he doesn't.
Yep.
So yeah,
It's a good. You guys
like I
have.
said, I don't know.
It seems like a smooth up. Like just from the outside, you seem to guys like kind of balance each other out. Somebody's busy, somebody can easily step in to
Yeah,
keep everything moving. And that's
yeah,
one thing that
and that
Defiance doesn't really stand still a ton. Like we have our moments coming out. Anytime you come out of like you're starting a new arc, I feel like we always kind of start slow and late, and you take a
yeah,
long break and you get fucking lazy. But
yeah.
no, other than I think you guys do a good job of cracking the whip. So
Thanks. Yeah, much appreciated. Yeah, no, it's definitely been it's really nice. I've done the Fed head thing one other time, and then that place closed 2 weeks later.
oh
So yeah, and so now having done this much longer than I did at that point in e-fedding, I'm like it's a lot easier to kind of like you said balance out, and Brian's been popping in more, so
mhm.
like I said, he's been he says he's not, but he's been a big help too. For it's a great group of people to work with, honestly, and I don't think we've ever had that I can recall anyway. I don't think we were probably ever having any issues with each other, so
Right,
that
which is
helps too. Unlike
yeah, yes,
yeah,
yeah.
unlike the staff of old and their issues.
Ugh, right. So yeah, but like, and that's the thing. Like Brian popping back in is another big boost. But you have to wonder how much does Brian know? Like, has Brian been paying attention? And that's really the question. He's catching up though. That motherfucker's catching up. Which actually this
I know,
actually
I'm scared.
yeah, I'm a little nervous too. I'm so glad we're having this talk. But this actually brings me to I want to move on to another segment. We're going to come back to your characters in a bit, but I do want to move on to the game show. This kind of brings me to the game show segment, Seth. As you know, every edition of Talking Ourselves to Death, I try to put together something special for the guest, often tailored to them. And in this case, this is a game show that I've had up my sleeve for you in mind for months. Literally
Oh boy.
months.
Okay.
So I'm excited to kind of share this with you. I think first I have to explain that last Sunday, I recorded a 26-minute interview with Brian. And in that quick interview, it was kind of like an abbreviated. We're going to release that at the conclusion of this tonight. I'm going to release that full.
Okay.
I'm going to release that full
Right on.
episode. But in that episode, we talk about things like Def touring. I kind of take him to task. I ask the hard fucking questions. Just accept it, Brian.
All right.
We talk about Bigfoot Wizard existing. We talk about the new character art. Him being active in Def again. So please tune into that episode. You see this hard sell. I am a fucking professional. And also, in that process, Seth, I don't know if you're familiar, if you ever were a Howard Stern fan, but obviously I'm a Howard Stern fan back in the day. And he used to play a game. One of my favorite things Howard did was his game shows. And he did a game called the Homeless Game. And he would interview a homeless person. And it's horrible. It's so bad. He would interview a homeless person and ask them questions about current events, about whatever. And the people in the studio, they would all bet on, does this person know the answer? Will they get it right?
Oh, okay. So, I remember those games. Okay.
So today, Brian is the homeless person, and Brian is the homeless person, and I asked him 7 questions about Defiance current events from the last year. And we're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch the clips right now, Seth, and I'm gonna have you tell me, does Brian know?
All right.
Does he have a goddamn clue? Right. So we're going to play this game, and we're going to, like I said, there's 7 questions. I'm going to play the question, me asking the question. I'll pause it and give you an opportunity to kind of decide, shit, is this something Brian would know? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. We go now to question 1. Question 1. Brian, name 2 Defiance performers who have been romantically linked to Siobhan Cassidy. All right. So that's the first question. And what Brian did here, and I appreciate this, he there's a long gap here. I want to explain this for the viewer. There's a long gap here because Brian was giving me time to edit clips if I needed to. So don't be shaken by his long pause. But does Brian know? Can Brian name? Do you think Brian can name 2 wrestlers who have been romantically linked to Siobhan Cassidy?
I think he can because they've recently been feuding. So,
okay, yep,
sort of.
Good point.
So,
good point. Yeah. If he's,
I think there's a good chance. There's a good chance. I think.
All right.
So I'm going to say it.
So Seth is saying yes. Let's see if you're right. Let's take a listen.
I don't even know who that is. But I'll take a shot in the dark. Teresa Ames. That's all I got.
Don't look at the website. Don't be cheating over there.
No.
Okay.
What about Pat Cassidy with the girl with him?
Yeah, that's his sister. But that's okay. You're done. Question. Oh God. All right. So you said he would. Okay, and I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah.
He did not know. Now what's great, Seth, is as the game goes on, you start learning a little bit more about what Brian may or may not know, and that might cloud some of your decisions going forward. So we'll go to question 2. All right. Let me rewind this. All right, Brian, thank you for that. All right, hold on here. I gotta rewind. Fix this. All right, here we go. All right, Brian, thank you for that. This is already a home run. All right, so question number 2. What does Terry Melton call her group comprised of Zoltan, JJ Dixon, and Terry Melton herself? All right, so obviously, Seth, you know the answer to that, I imagine. It's your uncut. Do. But does Brian know the answer, Seth?
I'm going to, against my better judgment, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say yes.
You know what? That is the quote of the episode. I'm going to give Brian, against my better judgment, the benefit of the doubt. All right, let's see. Let's see if you're right. Let's see if Brian knows the answer.
Uncut Gems.
Correct answer is your Uncut Gems, but we'll see if Seth is going to give you that one. I think I would give you that one. Yeah, I'm giving him that one.
I would give him that one.
Yes. So, all right, very good, Seth. So it's right now if we go to the scoreboard here, let me make sure I get this. So I don't even know if this makes sense, but Seth has one right, and Brian also shockingly has gotten one right. So this is exciting. So congratulations to you both. Nobody has won shit. Let's go to question 3. Are you ready, Seth?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Who did the Lucky Sevens beat for their second run with the unified tag titles at Acts of Defiance 2022?
Wait, read that one more time. I'm sorry.
All right. Who did the Lucky Sevens defeat to begin their second run with the unified tag titles at Acts of Defiance? Seth, what do you think, man? Do you know the answer?
For their second run?
Yep.
I do.
Who is it?
Was my characters that was Uriel and Titanus.
Very good. That is the correct answer. But really the question, Seth, becomes, would Brian know that?
I'm going to say no on this one.
All right. Let's see if Brian knows. Isn't this exciting? All right.
Saturday Night Specials.
Close. The Sevens beat the Saturday Night Specials for the belts at Max Def 2022. It was Titanus Familia. Los Tres Titanus. Yes. All right. All right. All right. So again, well done, Seth. Brian did not get that correct. Wait, did you guess that? What did you guess? You guessed he would not, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he would not get it right.
All right. I'm going to give you another point there. You're kicking Brian's ass, which is not shocking. All right. So let's go to question 4 here. And this is weird how suddenly I have to rewind it again. All right. Let's check out question 4. All right. We've recently had 2 new members apply and get accepted to Defiance on the roster, and they're almost certainly already gone. It's on the roster, and they're almost certainly already gone. Can you name the 2 handlers who applied and were accepted? We need both names. All right, so he's got to name the 2 people who have most recently applied and been accepted. Do you think he can do that?
I think he can get one because I believe he had conversations with one of the 2 that left.
Do you know the names?
I do, yeah. Was Logan and Rhea, I believe.
Very good. Yep. All right. So you think Brian would know both names?
I'm gonna say no on this one. I know, like I said, I know he had conversations with one, but I don't know about the other. So to err on the side of caution, I'll say no.
Okay, that's smart. All right, here we go.
All right, Logan and Rhea.
Very good. Very nice. Brian got you there. You know, it's never fun when Brian gets you, but I got to give Brian a point there. And I almost feel like I should deduct one from you, and I hope you don't take that personally. So now technically you're tied. Okay. All right. So let's go to question 5 if we can. And let's find out, and bear with me as I work this. Let's go to question 5 and let's find out. Does Brian know? Remember, that's the game we're playing. Does he know? I know he loves that picture, so I just keep going to it. Because this is what we do to each other. We torture each other. All right, so let's find out what question 5 is. All right, question 5. What faction has Scro been embroiled in a feud with for the past 6+ months? What do you think? Does Brian know? Scro.
I say he knows Scro.
Okay. All right. Let's find out if you are correct. Let's check in with Brian here. I love the stoic thought that he's into here. It's great.
I feel like I should know this one. How many factions are there? It's not like this is AEW. This is wrong. What, the Cabal?
All right, it's the House of the Harvest, which is the I would almost call them the successors, or
HOH.
Yeah, the Hose. Them hoes would have been accepted, by the way. I would have accepted that as an answer. Fucking Brian, man, letting you down. All
That's
right.
how the hose will do you.
The hose will get you every damn time, Seth. All right. There's 2 questions left. You have time to redeem yourself here. And now you're learning a little bit more about Brian's awareness here. So let's check out question 6 and let's find out, does Brian know question 6? Here's a good one. So question 6. And think about this one, because I think you might be able to come up with this. Who did Henry Keys defeat for the Soher at Max Def 2022? All right. So who did Henry Keys defeat for the Soher at Max Def 2022? Do you remember who took the belt from Scro, Seth?
Yeah, Keys took it from Scro.
Yep. Okay. But will Brian know that?
That was a while ago. I'm gonna say no.
No. Okay. All right. So here we go.
I had to think. I legit had to think on that one for a minute. I'm like, yeah, that's been a minute.
Yeah. All right. So let's find out if Brian knows.
I mean, I know the last person I approved to put it on. There maybe there was someone in the middle.
Yep.
So I'm gonna say Scro.
That's the correct answer. Well done, sir. Well done for 500 points and back on the board. Oh man, he got you, kid. He got you, fucking Brian.
Oh, he did. I know. I had to err on that one because I'm like, I didn't know that one. I'm like, I had to think about that one for a while.
Oh man,
it's been a minute.
Oh, it has been a minute. So far you're doing horribly. But like, I'm going to tell you, I said to Brian, I want you to know this. I said to Brian, when we started recording, I'm like, hey dude, by the way, fuck you for starting to pay attention again, because you're going to ruin my bit. I've been planning this for months, you cocksucker. And now all of a sudden you're paying attention. Oh, bastard. I love it. All right. So final question, Seth, you have a chance to at least get back on the board here with the very last question. This is a DEF CON related question. Right. So let's see if Brian knows DEF CON. All right, man, here's the last question. I think you've done pretty well so far, all considering. All right. It is DEF CON season, as you know. Are you able to name one of the main events from either night of the previous DEF CON 2022? I'm looking for the main events, the 2 main events for last year's show of the year. So Seth, he's got to be able to name at least one of the 2 main events, right? So do you remember DEF CON's main events?
Oh,
it's hard, dude. It's hard.
I know. I'm like, man, I have children and I run on like 2 hours of sleep a night. So I'm like, my long-term attention is just down the tubes.
Okay.
Fuck.
What was going on a year ago? What were we building to?
I know. I know. I'm like, I should know that. I know one. I want to say it was Connor and Malik against the Saturday Night Specials for the Unified Tag Titles, I think.
Well done, sir. In a safe space match. Okay. That was, I believe,
it
might have been night 2. That might have been night 2.
Oh, okay.
So do you remember who had the fist at DEF CON? Maybe that might help you.
Yes, yeah, that was. I do now. Crimson Stalker and then Deacon beat him for the championship.
Well done. All right, so those are the 2 main events from last year's DEF CON. We are a year later now. Does Brian know either of those matches, Seth? Does he know?
I've been nothing but wrong the whole time. So, but it's 50-50. I'm going to say yes. He'll get at least one.
All right. I think that's the worst decision you've made all night, personally. But
probably.
Let's see if Brian knows. I don't remember. So,
guessing. Deacon versus Lindsay Troy for the fist.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah. That's all.
Yeah. Close. Deacon is in it. It was Deacon versus Crimson Stalker.
That's the Mausoleum match? No.
I think it was the rematch to the Mausoleum match, I believe.
That's right.
I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
I was still around for the Mausoleum thing.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah, Vasio was in that. Made an appearance. The other match. What if I said safe space match? Well, if I said safe space match, what would come to mind?
Mallet Garland, Connor Fuse.
Yeah, very good. As a tag team taking on the Saturday Night Specials. Yes. Yeah, you missed a lot of fun. You missed a lot of fun there. And now he's back, and now we're stuck with him. So Seth, Seth, you didn't do bad there, but that was a good little game there. And it just makes you again. Tonight, I want you to just think about as you're meditating, trying to get to sleep. Does Brian know? And the answer is probably not. Probably not. Oh man, but that was a lot of fun. Thank you, Seth, for
That was a good one.
for playing along with that. Thank you. Brian's full episode, the 25 or 26-minute opus, will be dropping at the conclusion, so don't go anywhere. All right, so Seth, let's get back to your nonsense. Let's talk about Alvaro de Vargas. Let me take Brian's face off of the screen. I might just leave it, but let's talk about Alvaro de Vargas and kind of like where Alvaro came from. I know you've mentioned he's like inspired by Razor Ramon. He feels much harder edged to me, but tell me about how Alvaro kind of grew and how excited you are for where he's at going into DEF CON.
Oh, okay, yeah, and that was one of those that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I think it was just he was one of the many like characters we were coming up with to fill, get rid of some old brazen characters that nobody was using. Let's put a few new ones in there. And I'm like, I started creating this giant like Cuban character. And like, oh my god, I just invented like 2020 Razor Ramon unintentionally. And then the handler of I don't recall the gentleman's name, but he was Trash Can Tim. He had come in and he was looking for a feud partner, and I just happened to be free. So it's like, oh, you know what? I'll try this Alvaro character, and like, I'll write as him for a couple shows. And then he was the original version was just as cocky but more goofy at the time. And like the whole feud was Alvaro was a brazen character. Trash Can Tim was hired for the main roster. So it was Alvaro trying to be his friend so he can finally get out of Uncut to wrestle on Def TV and eventually like take his spot.
Which is kind of like an Alvaro. That's like a vein. There's that chip on the shoulder that I feel like Alvaro always has. When he was looked over for that tournament, the Ace tournament, like he was pissed off. So like, yeah, I like that. You like either intentionally or not, that fire, no pun intended, that burns in Alvaro de Vargas. Like, why are you not acknowledging the heat? God damn it! If you won't acknowledge it, you're gonna feel it. And I think you've kind of either intentionally or not, organically, you've kind of told that story, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's been one of the most fun characters I think I've done, is Alvaro. Like, he originally started, like I said, he was just some kind of, like I said, cocky Razor Ramon knockoff, and then over time, the chip grew, so he had to get a little bit harder and, a little bit tougher for his opposition. After that Trash Can Tim feud, originally, he goes, he lost to Trash Can Tim. That was always the plan. And then, oh no, I'm going to have to go back to Brazen. I lost to this guy. And then Tom Morrow comes along. And so Alvaro ends up being the very first member. So that part was unintentional. But then I'm like, oh, wait, I can make a story out of this. So then when I was eventually planning for like Tom Morrow to pull apart from the Sky High Titans at the same time, here comes Alvaro. So that ended up being one of those things that was completely like out of nowhere. But I'm like, oh shit, if I put these parts together, that makes sense. Because the Titans had just lost the unified tag titles, I believe, to the comment section. So they were in a spot where like Alvaro was going to come up, they're going to come down a little bit. And so those stories just kind of came together. So then Junior breaks apart from Junior's plan was to try and get Minute and Uriel to turn on one another, but they were so loyal to each other that they didn't. So then he goes, okay, well, fuck it. I got this new guy, Alvaro. And then he debuted by lighting Uriel Cortez's face on fire with like kind of the old school, like Memphis, like Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert fireball. And then that's been his gimmick ever since. So,
and like, he's had like what's great about you and like, one of the things that's great about like your contribution to Defiance is you're very, everybody is, but like Oscar Burns is the patron saint of the rub. Like that's what I've kind of come to like. Oscar Burns is going to be the guy who, okay, who needs to get over? All right, yeah, fuck it. Oscar can lose because Oscar doesn't need to win every match because he's Oscar Burns, and
Exactly.
he'll give you a reason why it doesn't matter. He'll find a reason to tell you why that win or that loss is insignificant. But I feel like Alvaro has kind of had a little bit of that as well, where it's that give and take that you bring to Defiance with your characters that I think has helped so many other writers do something with their character. So I know I appreciate that you were able to do that with Alvaro when I was trying to make MV1 a thing as a singles guy.
Yeah.
So like and that's what I appreciate about, one of the things I appreciate about like what you bring to Defiance. So obviously seeing Alvaro kind of that spark light and catch wind and all that fun shit has to be cool. How far back has this been in the plannings for Alvaro to make this challenge against LT and demand this shot and get it at DEF CON? How long has that been in the works?
I want to say probably just after the Axe tournament, I think. And so that ended up being a badass story that really fell, pretty much into my lap almost. We needed a challenger for Lindsay at the time. And so that ended up being a perfect thing. So it's like, okay, cool. And then I can kind of tie these stories together. Alvaro, he gets no consideration for the tournament, despite of he's got wins over, like, he in his early days, he was feuding with Oscar Burns, and I believe he beat him on one or two occasions. He's beaten guys like Connor Fuse. He's beaten people who were in that tournament, but he himself was not in it. So, okay, I'll use this for the basis of a heel turn. And then, he beats MB1 when they're colliding over both guys not getting picked in the tournament. And then from there, Warren had come along and he wanted to do something with Alvaro. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, these stories kind of fell into like the perfect alignment. So it's like, okay, cool. We're going to go through this story where Warren was more than generous enough to put over Alvaro. So then he's got, pardon the expression, he has all this heat that he can then conceivably go into a feud with Lindsay Troy for the top show of the year. So like these things one after the other wind up. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, all these things just wind up perfectly.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. And now it's that's awesome. I love it. So like, how excited are you like for this? Is it Ve Victus? Let's talk about Ve Victus and how you were your characters were pulled into that, bringing Sonny Silver officially really to Defiance in this capacity. How did that come together? Was that always the plan for Oscar to be in it? How far back did that go? Back even like when Brunk was involved, or?
Yes, I think somewhere close to. I think it was around the time he was there or the time he left. I think it was around that time. So it's been in the works for a bit. But we've had this far back, even when back when Lindsay Troy and Oscar Burns had their series of matches, when Lindsay Troy had Burns had just lost the fist to Mikey. She had her shot. She lost to Mikey. So then it's the two characters. Well, I want the next shot, and well, I want it. So they feuded for like 2 arcs, and we had some really awesome like matches together. I think it was kind of out of that. It's like, oh, they would be like great allies at some point because they both want the same things for Defiance. Troy is probably more vicious in doing it, although lately, Oscar's a giant fucking dickhead too. So they might be the same or close to.
Yeah.
And then from there we kind of planned it out, and it's like, okay, and then it makes sense. And Oscar's heel turn had kind of hit. I don't remember what the original plan was. I think he was just going to be kind of the typical, like, he was just going to be a cocky douchebag, and that was okay. And then when Oscar did his official turn on Connor Fuse, he goes, I made some throwaway line that was like, no, you're not Defiance, I am Defiance. And then that became his gimmick today. He's the guy who helped put Defiance on the map. He's the guy synonymous with this company. Like, for the past 5 years, he's been the guy brother, so to speak.
He's also Defiance and Favored Saints. I want to make sure that has been. I want to make sure everybody understands that he is Defiance and Favored Saints.
Defiant favorite Saints and favorite Saints champion, as if that wasn't confusing enough. So
all right, so describe the him. I guess it's just an easy way to make him a bigger dickhead, by kind of making him part of the office. Was that kind of like the genesis of that? Like all right, so Oscar Burns is already reviled and loathed. How can I make him worse? Was that kind of where that
pretty
came
much
from?
And I will give 100% of the credit to Strauss. He came up with the idea of, he goes, hey, what if we had this idea where like Oscar Burns, somehow got into power with favored Saints and then was just kind of dicking over resin on a regular basis? I'm like, that sounds like something he would do and something that would be a lot of fun. Let's go.
Oh, I love it.
And so,
I love it.
And so just before the pay-per-view, I'm like, okay, let's kind of get the gears rolling before Resin had announced just come back for that Def Radio. And it's like, okay. And that makes sense. Oscar's, in my head, he's kind of like, yes, he's been a guy who makes all this money, but he's very frugal, like a Mick Foley type. Like, I see him being like a Daniel Bryan, Mick Foley, yes, I make all this money, but the money is not what it's about. So in my head, I could justify, okay, he has this money to buy a bunch of stock in favored Saints.
Why
so
wouldn't he?
that makes sense to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of like where you're gonna go with that, and please, this is a no spoiler zone, but like I'm really curious where you're gonna go with that and how you get out of it, or whatever, or not. So I'm very very intrigued by that. How about having Sonny Silver now involved and being able to, because he and Tom Morrow are very different personalities. They're both dicks, and like I love what you did in the Def comment section today, kind of building up to the confrontation we're gonna see at the next show, which is like classic Seth, planting those seeds along the way, letting you motherfuckers know what's coming. But how different? How obviously Sonny predates Tom, but like how are you gonna do that? Like are you loving that dynamic of those two different dickheads?
I thought it would be harder at first, and I feel like it took me a little bit to kind of get more comfortable handling Sonny, because he was like my main character for like a number of years. Like Lindsay talked about in her episode, they have a lot of history together, and then for a while I hadn't really used the character in any major capacity. So I feel like it kind of took me a little bit to kind of, get used to, like, he's very surly, very gruff. Like, he'll drop F-bombs, but, he's very vicious, but there's usually a point behind his viciousness. And then Tom is like a giant fucking snake oil salesman. So, I mean,
Right.
It's just kind of remembering who they are at their core, and then that helps to kind of differentiate between the two. Tom is trying to sell you on something all the time, every time. Sonny just doesn't give a shit and tells it like it is. So right. I think that's what makes it fun. So, and then when me and Linz had the idea of doing like the contract signing, but with a twist, it's not going to be with the characters. It's going to be with the people who represent them, which yes, I'm both of them, but
which is
I hope you guys, yeah. So I hope when that show rolls around, I hope you guys enjoy kind of what comes out of that. I think it will be a lot of fun. I hope I can pull it off and it's fun. So I hope you guys enjoy it when we get to that point.
No, but I like what you said. I like what you said about how you just got to remember who they are. I got to remind myself who they are. And once, you type that name and put that colon after it, like, all right, this is Sonny now. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's good.
Yeah.
I'm looking
It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. But it's almost like what you do with Def Radio, how you switch between those voices and you do it effortlessly. So I don't think you're going to struggle that hard, brother, personally.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think it will be too. So let me ask you, like, we've mentioned DEF CON, we've mentioned contract signings and kind of building up to the biggest show of the year. Aside from the stories that you are involved in, which I think that leaves, hold on. I think there's 3 stories you aren't involved in. No, aside from the stories that you aren't directly involved in, maybe I should say, what is the story that, like, and again, we're 1 Def TV in? Two now? 2. Yeah. I haven't read last show yet. I'm so sorry.
I've Tim, so I know I got feedback. So.
Yeah. So like, what is there a storyline that you're most intrigued by or excited about, and why is it Ned Reform and Elon Musk? Discuss.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I know this has been something that Joe's been wanting to do for like a long fucking time. So now that we're here, like, I have full confidence in. However, I, this is one of the stories where I think I actually don't. You know, I'm staff, so I'm privy to where most things go. I don't recall where this one in particular is going to go, and I'm going to leave it that way.
Yeah.
Because that's fun as hell. Like,
Yeah.
and I know this has been one Joe's wanted to do for a long time. So however it's going to get pulled off, I know he's going to kill it. Mm-hmm. He kills it with Ned Reform all the time, just like Pat Cassidy. So it's going to be a blast. Like, he's going to kill it.
Yeah. And like, my thing is, it's like, what's interesting about the dynamic to me is Elon Musk is a heel. Like, okay, he's got those people who like him and the fanboys and the stands, but ultimately, particularly ever since he bought Twitter and he's tried to become like the new Donald Trump on Twitter to try to get retweets and eyeballs and investors, like, he's an asshole. And it's interesting because Ned Reform, there's that whole flashback redemption story that Joe is kind of slow burn telling. I don't want to say redemption because it's not really redemption, but origin story, excuse me. Slow burn origin story that Joe is telling. That to me, like, you put both of these stories together and it's like, oh, where's he going with this? That's
exactly. And I love it. And I love when people are using like the role plays, like, you know, we can tell these stories on the shows, but I love when people use like the uncuts, the role plays, you know, Def Radio. That's again part of why I've had so much fun with Defiance, is like all the different outlets that people have, the deaf comments even, you know. At first I was like, oh, this is dumb, but then I'm like, oh, then today I did the thing with Sonny and Maura. I'm like, oh, well, that was kind of fun actually, having them be dicks to each other. So it's cool. And
oh shit, I just lost Seth. Folks, if you're joining us, if you're still with us, I just totally lost Seth. I don't know what happened to him. Well, isn't that fun? All right, stand by as I try to reconnect with Seth. Oh, he's back. I'm like, shit, we lost Seth. Oh, I love it. All right, cool. Well, you're back. But yes, I'm stoked on that. What else are you excited about for DEF CON? Is there another story that all right, here's I'm gonna jump to my other random questions here, and then I'll let you get back to your wife because I'm sure she's like, free me from this, from my situation here.
She is, she's sending me Morse code through the door, like tap, SOS, send help.
And you're like, no habla inglés.
I don't know Morse code. Leave me alone.
So I have a bunch of like stock questions that I don't think I can ask you, because there's no way I could ask you, is there somebody you haven't done an arc yet with that you wish you could? Because there's no way you haven't touched them all, as they say in the biz.
Yeah, you know, I think that might be, I feel like I've worked with everybody just about, if not everybody. That's a hard one. As far as the stories, and I'm not just saying this to kiss your ass, but I was like the MV1 and Corvo that were.
We'll see.
I love where it's gone so far. So
nice, thanks, man. I'm excited, and you know what's kind of fun is like I like I said, I know where I'm going, and it's like how you get there, and you have those moments. There's been plenty of times where I sit down at my computer and I'm like, I know the pay-per-view, but I got to write show number one.
But how do you fill these shows? You know, how do you fill in the in between?
Yeah. How do I get there? Yeah. No, dude, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to tell that story. All right. So how about, as somebody who's been here a long time, is there a handler that has left Defiance that you wish would come back? Like if there was one person who was a former Defiance handler that you could coax back into action or coax back onto the roster, who might that be?
Oh, that's a tough one. And this might just be like recency bias or whatever the term is, but you know, just Evan popping up on the forums today, I'm like, oh my god, Bronson Box, Oscar Burns would be like, that's a money match. Like that would be a DEF CON main event right there. Yeah, there's no way that when Evan popped back on, everyone's brain went to, oh, is Evan back?
Like, what's Evan?
Yeah. Oh, I
Or
know.
how
I
can I
kind
get
of like,
Evan back? Can I get him back?
yeah,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Evan would be a good one. I will say like K.O. Murray. I love that character, and it was actually Oscar that beat K.O. Murray for his first Fist of Defiance.
Wow.
So like they have history, the one match or the one match they had together, singles run, and he was on his way out. So like that would be fun to have like a full story with those characters too, given they had like the one moment, but it was a very pivotal moment because that was kind of the formal end of like the UTA invasion from a couple of years ago. And so yeah, I'd say both of those handlers would be awesome to have back.
All right. Is there?
And if they ever were, they'd be welcome.
Yeah, I hear you. Is there a handler other than Dwayne Anthony or whatever that guy's name is that you have no interest in seeing come back? Is there, because I feel like you also strike me, Seth, as a pretty even keeled dude who can pretty much work with anybody. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah, I've been told anyway.
Yeah, you know what I mean. All right, is there anybody else who rubbed you the wrong way in Defiance, or have we just gotten really lucky here generally?
I honestly, I feel like we've gotten lucky, and Dwayne, I not to keep bringing his name up, but I know he was one of those. I know
this program is sort of a coming. Like, can we bury this guy who's been gone for 3 years? And I don't want to do that either.
Yeah, let's just do it. Yeah, but yeah, I think that was the one where it's like, okay, and it was one of those things. Oh, it's just Dwayne being cranky. Da da da. You learn to work with him a certain way, but then when he's like, not to get into too much of what happened when he's like rubbing the people the wrong way that like have actually defended him, like me and stuff, and then I'm like, I'm done. So,
right.
But no, thankfully, I think outside of that, I feel like for the most part we've been pretty lucky. I can't think of any recent handlers that I'd be like, oh no, fuck them. But
other than Brian,
that might be my one weakness.
Other than Brian, after his. The way he basically just destroyed you in this game show today.
Oh man. Well, I'm not Joe, so he can't fire me. But then I don't want him to try either. So I'm
he's threatened to delete the website, for Christ's sake. We probably shouldn't. Mess around.
Yeah.
All right. So I asked this question. This question kind of occurred to me. It may have been on the last episode, which is available on demand. On this YouTube page, with Joe and Gorman, which I encourage everybody to watch. Those guys are hysterical. I asked them, is there a handler that you feel like is underappreciated as far as their contributions or their writing? I threw out Scott, and what's funny is in recent days, I've been really thinking about like Ford as an example. Like obviously,
yeah,
Ford, because he's steady and he his shit is always good. It's always clever. Yeah. It's consistently good. It's consistently clever. And while he's staff and all that, I feel like sometimes staff doesn't get acknowledged because of their role, or just because, well, that's what's expected. We expect Roland to be great. You know what I mean? But like, no, somebody should still say that motherfucker puts out great shit consistently. So is there somebody in the promotion or that stands out to you as like, man, I wish this person got more love from time to time?
Yeah, Ford is a pretty good one, and I mean, he's very modest, but yeah, I'm like, dude, his shit's always good. Like when he gets something on the card, I'm like, it's always must read. Like it's just his shit's like you said, he's really funny. Like he's been that way as long as I've known him. He's been one of the longest people I think I've known in the hobby, and he's always been a good dude. Like deserves his flowers and everything. So Ford would be a great answer. Billy as well.
Yes.
Billy does a lot of great shit. I had a fucking blast working with him and with Burns and Declan last arc. That was probably one of my more fun feuds, I think, with any character in a while. And it wasn't just because I had a particular bias to the character in Brazen, since he was kind of like the guy down there. I thought it was really awesome that he gave the character an opportunity, and he's been chugging along with him so far, and I hope to see a lot more good things from him. So I would say both Ford and Billy, and it's nice to see Elise Aries in the spot that she's at now with Henry Keys. I think, yeah, that feud's doing fucking awesome right now. Like the last show, go check that out. Like, if you're watching this, sorry you're going to be spoiled for this, but Henry Keys' complete murder of the D, that was fucking brutal, fucking awesome. That was great, and I can't wait to see kind of how. I don't recall all the details of their feud specifically, but I can't wait to see kind of how they how like the PCP bounced back from that.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that
that's
was
gonna
a
be
great
fun.
moment where So
Yeah. I agree with
I
you
would
though.
say both of them.
Like to kind of see Elise like get that moment again. It's a feud
Yeah,
that and like it's a feud that makes sense, and I love when shit
yeah,
makes sense. It may not show, but I swear I do. All
but yeah,
right,
Henry Keats.
so
Yeah.
good. He's let's see here. How would you want to be remembered in this hobby? You disappear tomorrow. You just decide, hey, I'm gonna be a hermit. I'm gonna unplug, and I'm gonna go. How would you want to be remembered?
Um, just hopefully that I was, hopefully that, like you said, I feel like I've built up a good reputation over the years as being somebody that can get along with just about everybody. The number of people that, I feel like don't like me, I feel like it's a short list, at least. I hope that's the case anyway. I hope that people think, oh shit, he was a really fun guy to work with. He had good ideas, he contribute, so that sort of thing.
And some might argue, Seth, you over contributed. No, I'm just kidding.
That's probably true.
All right, so I want to wrap up here. But dude, thank you for doing this, man. This was a lot of fun, and I feel like I bounced all over the map here. Barely scratched the surface. Last one. So you have to name 3 handlers. You're gonna push one.
All right.
You're gonna put over another, and you get to bury somebody. So who are the 3 handlers? You're push, put over, bury.
Okay. See. Push Dex Joy, because come on now. That's like one of the best characters we've got. Or if we're talking handler, I guess push Marcus. Put over Billy.
Yep.
And then we're gonna bury Roland. Since,
all right.
Since Roland decided to bury me before on the Discord, so that's what you get, asshole. Take
Perfect.
that.
I love it. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking time out tonight. I want to thank everybody who's watching, even that last guy who commented, I think. And I do want to announce that I believe the next one we do of this, it's going to be a while because the rest of my month is just chaos, but I think it's going to be Roland next.
Oh, right. Oh, shit. He's going to turn around and bury me right back.
Yeah. By the way, I probably should have told you that up front. But anyway, yeah. Dude, thank you so much. Be sure to stick around on the channel. I'm going to publish that video. I think it's going to be a quick thing to just do. We'll find out. But all right, man. Oh no, it's Scott. All right. Well then, fuck you, Scott. You're good people. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat. You sir, Seth. Have a great night, man. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate you all. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely.